Today we are going to continue our conversation on the plant cell. Today's focus is going to be the chloroplast. Now the chloroplast is the food producer of the plant cell. Now what is unique about the chloroplast, it is that it is not found in the animal cell and is strictly unique to the plant cell itself. Every green plant you see outside is working hard to convert the sun's energy into food for the plant. Now, the plant is the basis of all life on Earth. They create sugars to keep itself alive, and as a byproduct, it creates oxygen, which helps keeps humans and animals alive. Now, this process happens in the chloroplast. Now, if you remember, the mitochondria actually work in the opposite direction and break down the sugars and nutrients that the cell receives. Now, to understand the chloroplast, you have to understand the structure of it. There are two main points of the structure of the chloroplast. Two membranes actually protect the inner parts of the chloroplast. The first is the stoma. The stoma is the area in which sugars and starches are actually created. Now, it is the thylakoid sac, or the granum, that actually has chlorophyll molecules that adhere to the surface. If you recall, chlorophyll is what gives plants its green color. Now it is through these chlorophyll molecules that adhere to the surface that it takes the sunlight and creates the sugars. Now what is important about understanding the stoma and the thylakoid sac, or the granum, that it works as like a skeleton for the chloroplast and helps give it its structure. It is also important to note that these sacs, or these stacks, must keep a safe distance from one another in order to keep the most efficient way of running the organism. It's all about balance, and we talked about that in the animal cell as well. If there's not balance in a cell, it will not work to its best efficiency. The same is important with the plant cell. Therefore, those sacs must be a safe distance apart for the chloroplast to maintain its maximum efficiency. Now, the purpose of the chloroplast is to make sugars and starches for the plant. And they use a process called photosynthesis to get the job done. Now, photosynthesis is a process of the plant taking the sun's energy, taking it in through the chloroplast, and then creating sugars. Now what happens is when the energy from the sun hits the chloroplast, the chlorophyll actually uses the energy to combine carbon dioxide, which is CO2, and water, which is H2O, to have a molecular reaction. From that molecular reaction in the chloroplast, it creates sugar and starches for the plant to live on, and oxygen, or O2, as their byproduct. Now that byproduct of oxygen gets released into the air, and plants and animals use that to breathe. Now to recap, let's remember, one, that chloroplasts are only found in the plant cell. They are the food producer for the plant cell. Animal cells do not have a chloroplast. Two, that there are two main parts, or two membranes, that protect the inner parts of the chloroplast. That is the stoma and the thylakoid sac. It is those two that protect what happens in the chloroplast, where the sugars and the starches are created. Now also, remember that those stacks, or those sacs, have to be a safe distance apart for that plant cell to be the most efficient that it can be. Lastly, the process by which the sugars and starches are actually made is the process of photosynthesis, in which CO2 and water, so carbon dioxide and water, or H2O, create a molecular reaction that produces sugar and oxygen as a byproduct. That is how plants convert energy into food, and we receive oxygen from the plant itself. Thank you so much for attending today's lesson.